On the 19th day, I found my own uniform folded on my bunk. Not stolen, not disturbed, washed. Pressed along the seams with a care no prisoner on real station had shown another living being in 12 cycles. I stood there holding it, feeling the heat leave my frill. Only one inmate had access to the wash vaults. The human. We had assigned him laundry duty as an insult. On real, laundering another being's garments is hereditary shame work, given to deadlines and oathbreakers. It was a clean humiliation. No tools. No weapons. No status. We thought the human would understand exactly what we meant. Instead, he thanked the guard. That should have warned us. Real station was not a death prison. It was more refined than that. We kept dissidents, smugglers, saboteurs, failed officers, political embarrassments, creatures too troublesome to release, too connected to erase. 53 cells around a central drum, no windows. Recycled air with a bitter metal taste. Rules nested inside rules. I served as records adjutant, which meant I believed in systems more than mercy. Our species, the Talorin, keep order by division. Food schedules, silence periods. Work rotations. Restricted corridors by scent mark and rank pigment. If beings are separated correctly, they do not become a mob. They become paperwork. The human arrived in transit gray, wrists magnet-bound, carrying no visible fear. His name was Niles Mercer. Middle-aged. Soft around the face. Hair going silver at the temples. Convicted under interspecies interference statutes, though the file was sealed above my clearance. He looked like a school archivist. He asked for detergent ratios on his first shift. Laundry touched everyone. That was the flaw. Mercer took uniforms, blankets, wound wraps, kitchen towels, sleep cloths, and burial linens for the 2 who died in infirmary that month. He logged stains, repaired tears without being asked, returned items not merely cleaned but sorted in ways that made life fractionally easier, softer cloths to the molting vesh, unscented wraps to the migraine-prone Hullen, extra linings stitched into gloves for old Jor, whose hands shook too badly to grip his meal tray. Prisoners began speaking to him through the slot. Nothing important at first. Soap requests. Missing socks. Complaints. Then timing requests. Family name, medication schedules. He listened the way only humans seem to, like each small misery was a real object with weight. I reported the growing chatter to Warden Sevic. He dismissed it. Let them gossip over clean shirts, he told me. It keeps them from sharper ambitions. Again, warning. On day 24, Cell 8 refused meal rationing until the infirmary patient in Cell 19 received fresh bandages. On day 26, the Vesh twins surrendered a contraband blade in exchange for soap allotments being equalized across blocks. On day 27, 3 species who had not spoken civilly in years coordinated a work stoppage so brief and precise that no rule technically covered it. I reviewed the security feeds again and again. No secret tunnel. No forged codes. No hacked locks. Only laundry. Mercer had mapped the prison through fabric flow. Who shivered? Who bled? Who hid tremors? Which guards skipped rounds? Which vent carried whispers best? Which inmates would never trust each other directly, but would trust a folded blanket returned with a thread tied in a certain place? He was not breaking our walls. He was teaching the prison to notice itself. I confronted him in the wash vault. He was standing ankle-deep in steam, sleeves rolled, hands red from heat, mending a split sleeve with prison-issue filament. "You are organizing them," I said. He did not deny it. Humans rarely do, once they choose a line. He only asked, "Do you know how many of them are here without completed review?" I did not answer. I knew. 14. He set the sleeve aside. "Your station runs on backlog. Missing signatures. deferred hearings, wrong translations. People disappear in clerical fog because everyone assumes someone else checked. That stung because it was true. "You are a prisoner," I told him. "No," he said, and there was no bravado in it. Just exhaustion. "I'm the only clerk in the building who still thinks the forms matter." Then I understood the sealed file. Not a saboteur. A human compliance officer. On the 30th day, Warden Sevek ordered Mercer removed from wash duty. By then it was too late. Every inmate on the block had filed a grievance, appeal, witness statement, or medical discrepancy report in perfect procedural order. Not one. All of them. Cross-referenced. Timed. Delivered simultaneously to the oversight cutter during mandatory supply docking, when suppression would itself become a recorded violation. Mercer had done the impossible thing. He had started a prison riot made entirely of correct paperwork. No fire. No blood in the corridors. No screaming charge at the gates. Just doors opening one by one under the weight of our own law. 14 cases overturned. 9 sentences suspended pending review. 6 guards arrested for evidence tampering. 3 inmates transferred to civilian hospitals. By dusk, the station had lost a third of its population without a single lock being forced. Warden Sevek kept shouting, "Contain this." Contain what? Signatures? Mercer did not leave with the others. His own appeal was last in the stack, and he had known it would be. He stayed behind to finish collating the infirmary records because, as he told me, they'll bury the sick ones first if the files stay messy. I signed the release order myself 2 days later. Before boarding shuttle transfer, he handed me a folded towel. Inside it was my original uniform tab, the one I had lost 3 years before and quietly blamed on an inmate now dead. "You misfiled it behind intake ledger 7, he said. "Thought you'd want it back." I still have it. That is what remains with me, not the freed prisoners. Not Sevek's disgrace. Not even the silence after the cell block emptied. A human standing in steam, treating stains, missing forms, and forgotten people as versions of the same problem. And solving all 3 with clean hands.